Becoming a god is a pretty big responsibility, and that's putting it lightly. It's rare in common narratives that we see a hero attempting to attain godhood. Villains, on the other hand, are much more easily seduced by the concept. Becoming omnipotent provides them with the power they need to accomplish their sinister deeds, and it takes care of any competition or those who oppose you. So why wouldn't you want to become a god? Because really, there aren't many individuals out there in the realm of fiction capable of defeating a god. So today on Top 10 Nerd, we're taking a closer look at big bads from the comics who have managed to attain enough power to become omnipotent, or at least pretty darn close to it, with our list of the top 10 supervillains who became gods. Let's get to it. In at number 10, we have Darkseid. Darkseid has always had a whole lot of power. First introduced in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen issue 134 in 1970, and later properly introduced in 1971's Forever People issue 1, the first was a cameo, Darkseid is the tyrannical leader of the planet Apocalypse. His goal is to conquer the universe and eliminate all free will and reshape the universe into his own image. Yeah, pretty darn evil. It doesn't help that at his base level he's one of the strongest beings in the DC universe. So when he became even stronger in the 2005 Mr. Miracle series after attaining the anti-life equation, an equation that allows its user to completely control the thoughts and emotions of all living beings in the universe, yikes, you can imagine how freaked out many superheroes were about it. He used it to destroy the Fourth World, and during Final Crisis he began to take over Earth and corrupt the multiverse. Luckily, Batman sacrificed himself to fatally wound Darkseid, and the Justice League managed to finish him off. Moving on to number 9, Onslaught. Onslaught may be part of a less than favorable story event that typically gets criticized by fans, but the amount of power this character has is absolutely undeniable. Onslaught is the darkest parts of Charles Xavier's subconscious merged with the darkest parts of Magneto's mind, coming together to create a separate persona who has complete psychic omnipotence. This was a product of a battle between the X-Men and Magneto's acolytes, with Xavier using his telepathic abilities to shut down Magneto's mind and render him catatonic. Because of that, those two dark aspects of both men merged and Onslaught was born. He would terrorize the entire Marvel 616 universe, with the Avengers and the Fantastic Four having to sacrifice themselves in order to put an end to him. Although they were resurrected thanks to Franklin Richards, who made sure they were reborn in a pocket universe he created. That's a whole other can of worms for another video. And at number 8, Granny Goodness. Aside from some excellent alliteration that makes it sound like this character deserves to be on the Golden Girls, Granny Goodness, who first appeared in 1971's Mr. Miracle Volume 1 Issue 2, was not always a new god. She began her life as a lowly, which is the term for the brutally oppressed, impoverished class of people on the planet of Apocalypse. Once she was young, she was taken away from her parents and forced to train as one of Darkseid's hounds, a group of elite soldiers. Now, she impressed Darkseid so much during this time that he had her run the training facility for his soldiers, utilizing techniques like brainwashing and torture in what can only be deemed as a brutal parody of childcare. She often runs orphanages for Darkseid as well. After completing her training, she became a new god, now endowed with immortality, superhuman physical attributes, along with becoming a skilled warrior, leader, and tactician. She also wields a mega rod and a bunch of advanced technology. And, fun fact, Jack Kirby, her creator, modeled her after Phyllis Diller. And at number 7, Thane. Thane was not always a supervillain. He just had the unfortunate luck of being Thanos' son. We know how well being one of Thanos' kids turned out for Gamora. During Thanos' galactic conquest, the Mad Titan fathered many children. During the 2013 Infinity story arc, Thanos decides to invade Earth after learning that most of the Avengers are off-planet. Now, at the time, he targets the home of the Inhumans, saying that he'll spare the rest of the Inhumans in exchange for the deaths of all Inhumans between the age of 16 and 22. Now, the real intention of this invasion was to locate his lost son, Thane, and kill him. Now, Thane just thinks he's a regular old dude until the Terrigen Mists are released and his dormant powers awaken. Powers strong enough to one day give his papa a run for his money. That's why Thanos wants the kid killed off. But one of Thanos' Black Order, Ebony Maw, betrays him and ends up finding Thane first, turning him against his father, which results in the eternal Inhuman hybrid trapping his daddy dearest in a pocket limbo stasis. And at number 6, Lex Luthor. For a mortal man, Lex Luthor has more than proved himself capable of going up against some of the strongest individuals kicking around the DC universe. His genius-level intellect has allowed for him to rule over Metropolis, so to speak, with only the Dark Knight's Wayne Industries being the only true competitor for how far and wide LexCorp's reaches. Now, during the Darkseid War, a lot of characters in the DC universe got to dabble in being a deity, and Lex was one of them. In Justice League Volume 2 Issue 45, Lex benefits from another DC big bad dying. Darkseid bites the dust, and his Omega effect ends up being contained inside of Lex, which turns the bald bad guy into the god of Apocalypse, getting to choose whether he would free Apocalypse from tyranny or become a tyrant himself. In at number 5, the Magus. Adam Warlock may seem like one of the most noble heroes out there in the Marvel Universe, and sure, he kind of is, but the character actually has an evil half named the Magus. Over the years, we've seen 3 incarnations of this evil dude. The first was an older god-like Magus from a potential future timeline that Adam encountered, who was the leader of a religious empire known as the Universal Church of Truth. Long story short, Church of Truth was not a good church or religion. It was pretty bad and evil. This Magus was a tyrant, and in order to prevent him from existing, Warlock actually works with his foe Thanos in order to ensure that this Magus timeline is erased. But that was not the end of the Magus. After Warlock had acquired the Infinity Gauntlet, his soul expelled 2 halves, one good, one evil, and accidentally gives those halves corporeal forms. And guess what? The evil half names himself the Magus, and then tries to get the gauntlet for himself. Warlock then would become Magus later on after repairing damage to the space-time continuum and ended up dying. But the Magus is resurrected as a child later, and also Warlock is resurrected, because death in comics doesn't really exist. Up next at 4, Molecule Man. Molecule Man Owen Reese first debuted in Fantastic Four issue 20 in 1963, but it wasn't until the character's later years in the comics that his full range of power would become apparent to others in the superhero and villain community. Capable of reality warping and molecular manipulation on a multiversal level, Molecule Man, previously a villain and sometimes a reluctant hero, is very powerful, and nothing like his involvement in the 2015 Secret Wars event goes to show that better. During that series, he began to overcome the subconsciously imposed mental blocks he had placed on himself to prevent him from affecting organic molecules. He would extract the Beyonder from Cosmos and battle him over 3 spatial dimensions, which threatened to cause a multi-universal scale of destruction. Fun! According to Dr. Doom and Reed Richards, he is a multiversal composite entity, a single creature that manifests fractions of its entire being in each universe within the Marvel multiverse. Plus, he was also created by the Beyonders to serve as a living bomb. He will destroy the universe that he's living in if he dies, so that is also fun. So much power, but so much death. Moving on to number 3, we have the Joker. Here we have an occasion where the Joker became a god, and it wasn't even in a Batman story. In Superman issue 160, the Joker ends up tricking Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving him 99.9% of his reality-altering abilities. Now when this happens, the Joker becomes practically omnipotent. And what does a borderline Joker god do? Well, for starters, he calls himself Emperor Joker. Then he shapes the world into one of his own image, which means it is a batshit crazy hell on earth. This all goes down within 69 seconds of the Joker having this power. He entertains himself by killing Lex Luthor over and over again, and then he ate the entire population of China just for shits and giggles. As one does. And what about Batman? Well, he tortured him daily only to bring him back to life and do it all over again every single day, taking extra pride in these killings thanks to their very messed up relationship with one another. Luckily, Superman manages to evade the Joker for a bit, reaches out to the weakened Mxyzptlk and the Spectre, and they all realize that the Joker's weakness, even after getting all this power, is still Batman. They use that bond against him to depower him, and everything is back to normal. And I guess all of China was regurgitated. And at number 2, Dr. Doom. Doom has become a god twice over the years, and both times were during the Secret Wars story events. Now the first Secret Wars, which took place in 1984 and 1985, was a 12-issue crossover limited series in which the cosmic entity known as the Beyonder teleports heroes and villains from the Marvel Universe to a place he created called Battleworld, where they're meant to duke it out in a contest that became a beloved story arc ever since, and was also a brilliant way to sell a bunch of toys, if we're being honest. Now during all of this, Dr. Doom managed to harness the power cosmic, gaining godlike power in an attempt to defeat the Beyonder. The sequel, which occurred almost a year after the original, would explain how Doom was alive in the current timeline. Then, let's flash forward to 2015, another Secret Wars was created, which positioned Doom as a survivor of a cataclysmic event in the multiverse, and he became God Emperor Doom, fully omnipotent. He had built his own battle world and used Molecule Man to empower himself. And last but not least, in at number 1, Thanos. Thanos didn't want to become a god for the sake of being a god. He wanted to become a god in order to prove himself worthy to his one true love, Lady Death, the entity and physical manifestation of death itself. After Thanos had successfully acquired all of the Infinity Gems and had placed them into the Gauntlet, the Mad Titan spent some of the very first panels of the Infinity Gauntlet comic story by literally creating a giant rock structure in space that spells out the word God in capital letters. Not even making this up. Meanwhile, Mephisto, who's like, yeah, I'm gonna side with him and not get dead and try to take advantage of his obvious insecurities, is tooting Thanos' horn by telling him he's in awe of being in Thanos' divine presence. And then, after building himself a very bougie base in space, Thanos commits the ultimate abuse of power. He snaps his fingers, wiping out half of all living beings in the entire universe, all to show Death just how much he loves her. Still, she rejects him, even after he manages to slaughter all of the remaining heroes and cosmic entities who join up with Adam Warlock to take him on. Ouch. In the end, it's his own self-doubt, insecurities, and his misjudgment of Nebula that bring his reign of terror to an end. And his goddom. Even though he's still pretty powerful. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other supervillains would you love to see become a god? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts and feels. Now if you guys dug this video, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more lists just like this one. In the meantime though, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.